Hello, everyone. We are here again with Borderless Commerce. This is another special episode, and me and my co-host, Commerce Growth Guru AJ, we have managed to hopefully impress you again. Probably this is the fifth time, right? We
Sixth,
got hold of
sixth episode.
sixth.
Sixth episode, yeah.
Right. So sixth, stand corrected now, and we have managed to basically get hold of Claire Michaud. She is someone outstanding. She is someone that we have been kind of looking forward to have on our podcast. And basically, you might have noticed that we have been talking to these founders and techies on the commerce side. We have spoken to Valen, we've spoken to Omar, we have spoken to Sam. Um, but Claire basically comes from the same group, and she is the one who is responsible, has been doing for a long time, this message communication to the businesses, to the brands, and she's been responsible for all that success. She has got very impressive resume, and she has been heading the business units, the communication, the business development side of things. She's been part of the domain that happens to be one of the largest independent design and development agency. She basically comes, as I've said, strong background with business development. Um, you know, Behemix, she's been part of the senior leadership, Wrangle, Deloitte. So very impressive, whole portfolio, and we are looking forward to see and learn and have a fun conversation with her. Claire,
Thank
thanks for
you.
being with us.
Great intro. Appreciate it. Happy to be here. Excited for our conversation.
Thanks very much. AJ, the standard question, right? I wonder nobody gets to ask this from you and me, right? We got to basically do this on our own, you and me, and then we start asking this question, but very important question, right? Claire, I mean, behavioral and AI, right? That itself within the commerce world gets to be something very, deep conversation kind of a topic itself. Now, someone basically built that, plug that into the commerce world. Now, you are someone who has basically comprehended that whole philosophy. You have kind of, made the offerings out of it. Then you are communicate it to the world, the decision makers of the brands. I mean, that is itself amazing. But my question is that how did this all started, right? So I'm assuming Deloitte and those days, but really, what did trigger to have you? What's the story behind that, right? So very curious to know.
Sure. Yeah. I'll take a step back. I've spent my whole career in some capacity of marketing, media, early days, always data enriched in some fashion, full marketing services, what we refer to now as 3PL, really building print on demand sites for clients like Mercedes-Benz and Samsung way before Shopify. And then transitioning where the market was going is really focusing on the data specifically and the insights and the story that it tells us about customers and then how we can impact business. It was intriguing to me. So I began with Deloitte in a mission to really synergize the data and analytics piece by centralizing all the data assets through one subservice line there. And then began to see the evolution, especially with COVID, of this digital ramp up and this need to be improve our experiences online. And began with great success with a number of organizations like Spiria and Wrangle, and found myself very interested in the what's next. And AI was the buzz. Now, AI, it's a congested market. I mean, there's a lot of companies that claim to be doing AI, and essentially it's not. What we were practicing with Behamix and the technology there was specifically causal AI. So there's that causal inference and the powerful behavioral science piece, which is so exciting because prior to starting at Behamix, I spent 20 hours listening to the book Influence by Robert Cialdini. And we were
Playbook.
actually at Behamix a recipient of that GABS award, which is a award around behavioral science, and he sat on the jury. So it's this melding of this real like passion as a consumer, but interest as a solutions provider in understanding how we could meld these two things together. How we could meld these two things together and sincerely like improve that experience throughout by understanding customers intrinsically. I will say there's a funny meme that I often think about, and because I remember in the old days with marketing, it would be persona development. That was the big buzz. And everyone would create personas based upon characteristics. And they'd sit on a shelf and you wouldn't look at them after the website was developed or whatever you put to market. And I always think of these two characters they describe. They say, well, there's two men. They both live in castles. They're both play instruments. They both wear makeup. And they're both in their 70s. But it was Ozzy Osbourne and Prince Charles. And when you think of them, they are nothing alike. But when you marry in that behavioral science aspect and how we behave in the experience with the demographics, it becomes that much more powerful to really be able to tailor an experience that's specific to the customer.
This is the way you have put this, right? This is so interesting and intriguing. So then what was a hardcore assignment, Claire? So was it Behamix? Was it before that? I mean, where you were given this, and how did that basically journey started? So Behamix, because in my understanding, what we have been talking to, and generally, we know Behamix now. These folks are pretty organized in terms of, first envisioning, how to bring the two together, behavioral and AI. And as you were saying, AI is everywhere these days. But the people who are in the know, just to put it this way, they are looking at the use cases, right? And the way this is explained as merging behavioral sciences plus AI equals to whatever the use case will be or the output. I mean, in those terms, Behamix is pretty organized and structured, right? So your engagement with them, how did that kind of pan out? I mean, how did you get to speak to those goals, and how did you start?
Yeah, I think within that role, it could be a challenge because there's a huge education element. AI, big buzz, generative is the big thing right now. Not a lot of people are familiar with the causal inference and what it means to the impact of a specific event on another. And that was probably the biggest challenge to bring to market here in North America. I think the real opportunity is in the aspect of service, and where I am now with Domain is how do we leverage these technologies to put forward the thoughtful alignment and bring the data together to tell the story so it's impactful to the brand, and we can look at increasing our conversions, our average order values, and our overall engagement and revenue. So it's putting to practice what that technology does very well, and that's really what I have a huge craving to get back into and come back to services, is that hand holding around the individual brands, because the tech piece can be very overwhelming to clients, to the industry.
Okay, got it. Sorry, go ahead, JJ.
And I think to your point, I think a lot of tech has now become monolithic in so much as they're trying to solve every problem that they can think of under the sun, rather than being excellent at a few core problems. I think that's what Behamix have done exceptionally well, with Nudge and with the SEO tool that you guys released, etc. And so I think you really have, and I'll plug the two last episodes because I'm going to be crass here. Go listen to Valen's, go listen to Sam's episode. They're both great episodes. Valen, we went on and on, and it got better and better and better as the episode went on. So listen to Valen. But it does seem that that what Behamix have been doing, and hopefully what Domain are doing, is really just solving 2 or 3 really key problems that actually impact AOV, CR, momentum, kind of trading you like. And that kind of then means that actually they become the go-to tool for that.
Yeah, I would say I'd describe it jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
It would be the opposite when I think
Absolutely.
of Domain and why there was such an attraction to move here and begin my role with this team is because they're specific to Shopify. They're Shopify's inaugural #1 partner globally. This gives us a really big opportunity to harness the expertise of many Shopify experts, not only on our team, but at Shopify directly. Our team also includes many from Salesforce, which gives us really good insight on how we can help clients in their migration process from one platform to the other. And we really focus on not only just the ecosystem and the technology, but the strategy as well as the design elements. And it's not just about building beautiful experience, but it's about building those that engage and convert and generate more revenue year after year. And then the big component to that too is now really looking at it full circle. How do we drive more traffic to the site? How do we look at that CRM component, the lifecycle marketing? And this is where we really see a fit with a lot of what I've learned with Behamix and melding the identity of individuals, not just based upon who they are, but how they act.
So Claire, I want to understand this, not only the thought process, but at, the mechanics of the conversations that you have in your role with the decision makers on the other side, brands, the companies, whoever, in the commerce realm. So, and the first question is, when I was introduced, or I think all of us, we were introduced initially with ChatGPT. There used to be a time, 2015, 16, when Salesforce brought in, Einstein, that was their AI module, used to do the same thing. So we kind of, saw that. But when I saw ChatGPT, the first usage probably for a week, I was enjoying it. I was killing it. All of us, we spent so much time interacting with it. All of a sudden AI became sexier and all those things. But after a week, 10 days, you kind of, start thinking, what's next, right? So the use cases were really missing. Now, this is a conversation where the decision makers are really stuck. Have they now do they now know their use cases with AI, or if you basically educate them, what exactly is their response? Because I think the phase has started where they've started to believe that AI could be useful. It's not just a buzz kind of a thing. So how is that play, and how are those conversations happening? What's your modus operandi in that angle?
Yeah, I think that there's an increased level of adoption now around AI. We're becoming familiar. There's this important piece that understands it's still in progress. Like humans offer this unique context versus AI, you can detect it, and that removes the authenticity around a lot of the communications. As an example, if we're thinking about generative, that we would have with each other, with customers, so I think there's definitely, although there's many positives to leveraging AI, there's a fine balance to how you specifically use AI, and it has to be in a manner that you see is contributing to the business in a positive way versus detracting from the image.
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out. To surmise.
I've got really good with the ChatGPT of giving it perspective, because it lacks that. Speaking in the tone and exactly what you want it to use it for. It needs a lot of direction still. It needs a lot of hand-holding still.
It doesn't understand nuance, and that's why people, I think the three of us are going to be very safe in our jobs for the next 30, 40 years. I don't feel that it understands the context and the nuance of the greater problems that we're trying to solve. And so it can be instrumental in solving a piece of the puzzle, which is fantastic, but it still requires you to have some intelligence and some thought around why you're doing certain things.
Can I give some perspective on, as an example,
please,
customer service agents? I'm sure we've had that experience when it would make more sense just to pick up the phone, because the message is just being communicated through an AI agency that's not efficient. And there's nothing more frustrating. It adds so much friction to the process, versus when we think about some of the other forms of AI, like I'm referring to around causal inference. If we could detect on a site exactly when there's a specific issue with 98% accuracy that's causing a reduction in revenue and how to recover it, That's amazing. That's incredible. If we can really pinpoint specific ailments in the human body that can diagnose, you know, things like cancer, it's pretty incredible. Like, that's where I'm thinking where I want to see AI go.
Yeah.
Not writing beautiful paragraphs in emails.
And Claire, yesterday I was on a call. I've got my notes here, right? With with that lady. Sorry, this is the page over here. So these are all the notes from
That's
that call.
horrific.
That was a 43 minutes call, and what I wanted to say was basically that in January I had a different charge. Why did this change in February and March? This was the only question. The call was 43 minutes. I was put on hold for almost, I crossed my heart, at least 30 minutes of the call, maybe more. And then she comes back. And this is the time where I was talking to her, by the way. She puts me on hold, she goes, calculate, adds something, this and that. And then she comes back and say, oh, because you added couple of people in February into your and so your premium basically went down. It was one half a line answer. It took 43 minutes, and I was thinking, you know what? And I have some background on this AI and agentic AI, etc. And I was thinking, I should forward this lead to my sales folks to just go. They really need some help, right? So this has happened, and this is a big organization that I'm talking about. The insurers, they're all in this part of the world. They're a big organization. So this has happened, and it's not 24 hours back. Now, I think moving on. Do you see any of these, the general landscape getting changed? Because if we look back in last 12 or 15 months, ChatGPT, OpenAI, they have come with probably 4 versions, 4 updates, and each next model is really advanced, right? So this is happening. Now, our businesses today, they are of course seeing that this is the progress which is going to happen pretty quick. Are they reaching out to you? Are they having intelligent conversations around, what do they need or what will they need in terms of, how the things will change? Because, one thing always happens, Claire and AJ, you will agree with me on this, that the person who gets smart is the consumer at the end of the day. And those experiences, they get advanced. And then businesses really struggle if they do not cop up with that. So are businesses, in your conversations, are they basically coming up with these use cases? Are there expectations? Are they educated? Or they are depending on you and Shopify and teams to basically see whatever AI use case they bring in, they will just use it, right? And see what will be the value.
A key part of our role is making sure that we're able to perform technical assessments on not only just code, but the MarTech that clients are leveraging. Here's the issue is if we're really heavy with some of these tools, then we're going to reduce things like our speed and our performance, which affects our experience as a customer. And you'll see that reduction directly correlate with conversion, reduction in conversion, as well as revenue. So it's really important that we're taking this fine-tooth comb and making sure that there has been success with these tools, because a lot of them are going to attribute their revenue or the conversion to their tool. So it's having that third-party perspective that can go in and really assess, what is working and what isn't in that tech stack, so that we can make informed decisions and recommendations for the client, and making sure that they're leveraging technology partners that are true to their word with respect to AI, and that it's effortless versus effortful, and if they're performing.
That makes sense. Claire, one quick question. So for a very long time, Shopify has been seen as, small and medium sized businesses kind of a play, right? So with Shopify coming in enterprise, I think, AJ and I, we have been associated with Shopify, with Magento, and, generally the commerce tools, but mainly,
I've only got horror stories about Magento, but we'll gloss over that.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, just that is something you want to. This could be something that we can insert a paragraph in the whole editorial, AJ, and you can take it from there. So,
Well, shall I jump in and ask the question that I think you're alluding to? How did
yeah.
Shopify bridge the gap between being, what their marketing 5 years was around Mr. Beast selling out his socks, right? You remember that campaign 5 years ago? How did they replace kind of Salesforce Commerce, which is running M&S here in the UK and Canada Goose in the US? How do you think the landscape is shifting towards that?
Exceptional innovation. I feel like Shopify is like that one tech company that has a personality that people are genuinely in love with, for the most part, AJ. But exceptional innovation, like the Shopify 2.0 has allowed enterprises to be able to bring that level of sophistication and leverage the technology like a business user. I find with a lot of the other platforms, I'm not going to call out anyone specifically, they just went through a number of mergers, cobbling together different tech stacks. They're very complex. They require high paid resources for any updates. Shopify's taken that different route, where it's really empowered a business owner to be able to leverage all the tools very easily. They have resourcing like Shopify Academy to learn what you don't know. You have this ecosystem of apps that are trusted by users, and reviews are offered so that they get a sense of what is working and what isn't for certain types of businesses. It's just really been able to give every size of business that opportunity to do a better job at e-commerce. We even see with Domain and with Shopify combined, because of our expertise in their platform, we see as much as a 30+% year-over-year revenue growth over some of the other platforms in revenue. And that's pretty substantial. And that's for a number of reasons. Not only just the tooling, but the expertise on how to really build not just a beautiful experience, but an engaging one. The checkout experience, maximizing that with some of the pay options and such. They've just done a really great job at continuing to evolve with the market and the needs.
Yeah, I think you outlined why Magento, I'll call it out, why Magento has died quite a slow, painful death. Is I think I remember being on my horror story. It can be summarized as this: I spent 18 hours for 3 weeks, literally 18 hours a day, programming up a Magento website. This was 10 years ago. This is 1.8, and just the rigidity of the framework and was ridiculously bad, but also it was ridiculously bad in terms of every update. I would sit here and pray that the entire thing wouldn't crash. I wouldn't have to then revert it back to I'd lose orders, I'd lose customer data, etc. And I think that's why I think things like Shopify and BigCommerce, where they are doing a hosted solution, where they are taking care of 90% of the tech headaches, are winning, and that's why I think people like Magento have lost the game. And I also remember 10 years ago looking at Magento agencies, and a lot of them were charging £200-400 an hour, so that's $300-500 an hour for doing very, very basic things, because it was an enterprise-led, quote-unquote enterprise-led software, and therefore you had to pay the enterprise going rate, even if you were a small mom and pop, to get onto the Magento enterprise software. And I think all of the above is why they've been pushed from pillar to post and haven't really evolved in the last decade.
And it's that simplicity around pricing. You know what you're paying for and what you're getting. It's tailor made for the person that's just launching that emerging brand, all the way to enterprise. And enterprise, we know, tap for time. No, there's not enough resources to go around for all of the work that needs to be done. So with Shopify simplifying that, and you're able to focus more on that strategy. How do we cultivate more traffic? Focus on the big vision of the experience and that omni-channel experience.
So Claire, when Enterprise was launched, there was a journal, I think at least for a year, Shopify had this brand challenge that Salesforce Commerce was seen as something like, an enterprise kind of a solution. However, on on Shopify, it was still seen as Shopify Plus kind of a situation. So now that brand image for Shopify being an enterprise level player, has that been evolved? What kind of a read that you have from the market?
Absolutely. We have a massive portfolio in beauty, home care, luxury, home care,
Hmm.
home decor, luxury, apparel. That's all enterprise clients. We're seeing a huge lift on all of the key metrics that are important in e-commerce on Shopify with these enterprise clients. Sometimes we get accustomed to things because it becomes like the McDonald's. Everybody's familiar with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it obviously had to go through that transition of understanding how equipped it was for enterprise. But now we're there, and the use cases that we have are pretty incredible in the enterprise space.
So I think normally, where they say that the most important thing in the food business, for example, that you need to remain consistent. You do not need to be, the Gordon Ramsays of the world, but you need to be consistent. For example, in McDonald's, you exactly know what are you going to pay, what are you going to have, and how would it taste. I think with Shopify, uh, this lift from Shopify Plus, the people who have been working on this, they could see that this is ground up built. So small businesses, small and medium. So the experience part has been incorporated into the enterprise with the DNA having that the small guys will be handling this, right? The employee experience was incorporated. So I think this is an advantage that Shopify has in terms of the impression of the technology that they have. So that's one positive that I take. But generally, who is what kind of problematic conversations that you often see when someone is rigid? Because the buying center of these big enterprises, half of them will be split, right? Going towards Salesforce Commerce or the Dynamics 365 or the SAPs or whoever. So what is the resistance kind of conversation that you see, the concerns to put it?
I would say a lot of the time it's the investment and that return. What does the return look like on that investment?
Hmm.
It's seen as migration seen as a very big time resource eating
Yeah.
project, and they
Hmm.
have to know that there's going to be a return on the investment, and they want to
Hmm.
see numbers in terms of what they can anticipate in terms of lift and what's important to them in terms of those key metrics. That's the biggest pushback. I see it across in digital consultancy and all the projects I've worked on. And you have to be very specific in helping a client, and I think that's where we become very powerful, is because we've done so many of these projects and have such insight into the success we've seen based upon certain verticals and traffic on sites and revenue, the GMV of certain clients, that we've been able to tailor that story for each client. And also it's about making it easy. I think a lot of agencies, they have this concept of just whipping through hours. They're just racking and stacking. And they're not really being forward thinking. They don't meld all the pillars of strategy, design, and the technology piece together, that technical piece, which is so important. And that's where we do well. We're not going to be the cheapest, but it's the trade-off of value towards low cost. And what do you want? As a customer of a brand, I want the full enchilada, the best experience. And I'm going to be choosier based on what's happening now in our economic environment. And I think as that client too, they should be looking at value.
Or buy cheap, pay twice.
Exactly.
I actually used that on Facebook and got hate from the person who posted the original. Do you know what this is X for cheap? And I was like, buy cheap, pay twice. And she instantly railed at me, and I was just like, cool. I'm happy with that.
It costs more. They come back.
Yeah,
They come back
yeah,
with redesign.
yeah,
You've come back
yeah,
to us
yeah,
time and time again.
yeah,
I've seen that.
yeah.
And this is a question for both of you, right? So now, if we kind of map out next couple of years, this movement, this migration, or generally the landscape of, I just want to speak about the migration bit, and that for next couple of years, businesses, are they open right now to basically move from one platform, because this is a huge investment, because these platforms are huge, and especially when there are some economic situation now, the current government with this new tariff kind of a thing happening. How is the landscape shaping up for next couple of years? Both of your opinion, please, on this.
Shall I go first? I think with any big investment, it's trying to make the case that it's a 5-year cycle or it's a 10-year cycle, and that you're buying the best in class and you're assembling a tech stack that allows you to be best in class, and that you're not buying a single piece of software that solves every problem, right? You're buying the right components, and that components can be switched out because of the interchangeability of other people's understanding of how systems work, and systems can be integrated. And I think whether it's Shopify BigCommerce, whether it's Dynamics 365 or whatever, or Salesforce Commerce, I think that they're all the best in class, and therefore I think the investment is that you're investing for speed, you're investing for accuracy, you're investing for uptime, and then the prettiness of how it looks, the prettiness of how it converts can be tweaked over time. But it's it's you're making a big capital expenditure to allow you to grow and allow you to achieve whatever operational goals or whatever North Star goals you have, and that an investment is just that. It's a multi-year payoff. It's not a one and done thing. It's a evolving situation. But I think getting the basics right allows you to say, right, we are nailing our flag to Shopify for the next at least 5 years, because we believe in what they're doing, we believe in their roadmap, and we believe that for what they're doing, there are enough different softwares that will integrate in with it that may not be the best in 5 years, but Shopify, its core, will be, for example. And that's where I'm betting on, is that actually, and I think the other thing in Shopify's favour is they've invested in Triple Whale, they've invested in Gorgeous, they've invested in 20 other names that we've all probably known or all probably have heard of. And I think that they've done that strategically, and they haven't done it because it's a way for them to generate money. I don't think it is necessarily. I don't think Gorgeous is highly profitable, but I think investing, just as an example, I'm not saying that they are, but I think investing in Gorgeous and Triple Whale and these other kind of software providers, Klaviyo, it just demonstrates to the market that they're caring about that value chain and the chain of interconnectivity that allows you to get the best from the platform at the centre. And I think that sends a really, really strong message to the market. Obviously, there are other alternatives to all of the above, but I think that nobody's doing it in that strategic way that Harley is doing. I think that's really, really fascinating both as a consumer of tech, but also as an advisor to tech-based companies.
I like to look at commerce, not like I would describe it as commerce instead of e-com, holistically. So we haven't seen a decline in any business as of yet, early days. That being said, there will be rigor on every part of commerce.
Yeah.
And there's opportunity. So every time there's challenge, I believe there's opportunity.
Yeah.
And we think of some of the efficiencies that can be gained in the fulfillment process, in logistics, in streamlining other processes in the business that allow us to reinvest in our most important part, which is facilitating the best client experience on and offline that a consumer can have. So I do think there will be an effect on the way clients choose to invest, They'll be looking to the innovators. They'll be looking to a more strategic approach and a lean framework in terms of the technology solutions that they're going to be bringing on. And really, that's where we're going to help clients. That's where we're going to be able to offer the strongest recommendations to do things better, to earn more, higher profitability, not just bigger revenue.
And Claire, let me ask you this. What exactly is the most important ROI, questions that you get, or the expectations apart from the revenue itself, right? And that's really critical for these kind of heavy investments from the business side, right? So what exactly are you hearing? What's your read on that?
Total cost of ownership. What is this going to look like to keep up and running? What does the team look like? What is, when we look at some of those platforms like we're describing, the high cost to keep that engine going, we really want to help clients make decisions, not just ones that are smart at the onset in terms of the initial investment, but ongoing decisions that are going to be able to be able to facilitate the business operating in an efficient manner and a profitable one. So it's not just about revenue, but what is this going to look like in the future in terms of my expenses and resourcing?
And I think Shopify, in terms of the way it's been built up, they have that advantage, and they're pretty good at catching that up. So that's that. And the other folks, the big guys, quote unquote big guys, they are gonna basically struggle around that part, capturing the market, etc. So one more thing, Claire. Now, if what does the engagement look like normally? And I always, that if someone needs to reach out to you, your organization, now what's the best way to do it? What will be the engagement? It will look like, etc. So how would that happen?
Yeah, for sure. Reach out to me if there's interest. You can find us at meetdomain.com. I'd love to set up an intro, and I call it Discovery Light. It's all about the client. It's not hardcore pitching. It's really getting under the hood and understanding the key challenges, the objectives, the roadmap of the client, and then bringing in some of our key stakeholders to really show what really the potential is and where we could go. Whether that's a light tech audit, a light design audit, bringing some strategic power to our conversation in that next call. Of course, we do our research on the brand prior, making sure we understand some of the technologies they're having. We can assess some of the performance issues they're having. We've come in well read, but it's important that we leave our first opportunity to speak with the client all about them, and then it becomes about how we can help and where we can add value. Following that, we're ready to roll. We are a well-oiled machine in terms of our proposal process. Everything is visual, and we walk the client through what that approach looks like. Whether you're a smaller client, we have a fit for you in Domain Studio, that's the emerging and mid-sized brands, or Domain Proper for our enterprise clients, where we have a huge portfolio. We've got lots of social proof for many different types of migrations and different verticals that we can share to make everyone comfortable in terms of what our capabilities are, where our expertise lies.
And Claire, just out of curiosity and understanding your process, does that also happen that you have done a discovery call and then maybe one other call and then realize you know what, these guys probably do not need us. Their problem is bit they can take care of it themselves. We can guide them, coach them, and where they go, and you are also happy. Does that really happen?
Absolutely. No is the most powerful word.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you're a fit. We don't have time to waste, and the client doesn't either. It's about really making sure up front that they're a fit with the service that we can provide. If not, we're always opening doors. We have an extensive partner network. My business chemistry is it's integrator pioneer. This is what I love to do, is connecting people in the industry with what they need, if it isn't what I offer.
Yeah. Okay, got it. So this last process primarily, we have this conversation. So many people reach out to us, and we kind of keep this part for them to understand how does what are the dynamics behind a professional engagement with the guests that we have. And anything else, AJ, do you have in mind? Do you want to add to this conversation?
No, just go talk to Claire. I think she's superb. I think she's best in class. She knows that this. I've said to her before. She gets reticent that I say such lofty things, but anyway, no, I think the three of us share the same sorts of values. I think Claire exemplifies, being an honest broker and being able to say, look, we're sort of the right fit for you, or you're the right fit for us. And I think there's also no harm in going and saying, I've got this project, what do you think? And taking half an hour with Claire, getting to know her a little bit, and yeah. And being Canadian, she's super lovely as well.
Thank you.
And
I'll see your voice later. It's all right.
and AJ, today I think that really Shopify should write us a check to you, to me.
Correct.
We'll share some with Claire too. Claire, we actually had an episode. This is going to come out this week, and we talked about Shopify. In one way or another, all three of us, we were there. We, proved our point, or the point that we were all fanboys for Shopify, right? And we did discuss this in the podcast that, what, this is not sponsored by Shopify, right?
No,
we had
it's
to run
not.
that disclaimer.
Unfortunately, it's not. But if you're listening to Shopify, write a check.
Write a check. Do that.
That's an opportunity.
Yes. So,
Superb.
thank you very much, Claire. This was superb. We had fun. We had very, cutthroat answers from you. And really thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Really appreciate you being here. We're going to have a round 2. I'm going to set something up. We'll connect with you. And folks out there, I hope you had fun. This is the kind of conversation, this is the kind of, energy, vibe, and the knowledge that we aspire to bring to you. All those 5 episodes that we had last, and this is the 6th one, we're going to have round 2s on that, right? So stay
Absolutely.
tuned. Thank you very much for the support, and we'll see you around again soon.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate the time.
So, okay.
You hit the stop button.
I always forget that.